Hi everyone, this is Jessica. I have not done a reading in a while. It hasn't been since closer towards the beginning of the fall, which I suggested I would try and do at least a monthly reading, but I also suggested that the reading was for the whole fall. And I might do touch-ups, I might not, and I had to kind of see how it went. And it turned out that that process that I was describing in that reading has been ongoing until now and is just culminating now. And so it wasn't really, I guess, necessary for me to be doing more readings for, I guess, for my objectives, for what I do, and for what I share until now again. And now I have a new deck of cards that's very magical, and they want to be shared. So I did a reading yesterday, and well, actually there's two new decks and one older deck that I've used, and then I'm also going to pull one extra card kind of at the end from Magdalene Oracle. So just to show you the cards we're going to be working with today. The first deck is Earth Magic by Stephen Farmer, which is a pretty well-known deck. Lots of you may have it. It's a great deck. And I have 5 cards from this deck combined with 5 cards from Magical Dimensions by Lightstar, which is the really magical deck I was mentioning. And I pulled 5 cards from this as well. And I did actually one and then the next one, but laying them out, I realized that they actually do pair together really well. And so we'll get into that a little bit. And then I also pulled 2 cards from the Wisdom of Trees Oracle by Jane Struthers. And I got these with the Magical Dimensions cards with the intention of having the energy of this deck helping to ground the Magical Dimension, I guess, activations available in the Magical Dimensions deck into the physical realm, specifically with the assistance of trees and anyone who carries a Tree of Life energy, which a lot of people that are Taurus do, because in 5D cosmic consciousness astrology, Taurus transforms from the bull to the Tree of Life. So I did not prepare like notes like I've done in the past and really kind of this is going to be just kind of free flowing, and I'm just going to let come out whatever wants to come out, because so we'll see how it goes. When I did this reading yesterday, it was really great. So the very first card is music, and I got a lot out of this card. I felt like a lot of people right now are opening up. There's a lot of clearing going on in the crown chakra, the third eye chakra, and the heart chakra. And through that clearing, harmony is starting to come through from the higher dimensions. I'm not the only person that I've spoken to that's been feeling this. What that kind of can look like or sound like is harmonious tones that you're hearing, like in the silent sound. You could say like you're hearing it in your head, but what you're really hearing is the silent sound, which is like other dimensional kind of noise. And so I've been hearing like symphonies, really great folk music. It's been really good. Like I'm like, there's no way that I could come up with all that. That's coming from somewhere, and there's definitely a lot of these fiddles and these harps coming through, and these memories of past lifetimes, pre kind of industrial revolution, of there being a lot of festivals and merrymaking, things like Beltane Festival, which is a festival celebrating sort of like earlier agricultural processes and protecting the cows and dairy farming and all that stuff. And that's just one example of this type of festival. I'm sure that there's many others universally, but that energy is one, I think, what is wanting to kind of come through as part of this remembering of the divine feminine that is happening right now. And I think for a lot of people, yesterday was very powerful in terms of we're starting to really activate that and bring the memory of that online and bring that aspect of ourselves back into our lives. I think we can really see how influential music is on either creating harmony or creating disharmony in our lives. If you think about the impact that it can have on a person on such a deep level, because essentially the music is it's so foundational. It's like the essence of creation is harmonic tones and vibration. So tuning in with those beautiful symphonies is and celebratory music of times past is very inspiring, and I think it's helping to open us up to our truth. And so I'll move to the first card from the other deck now. I didn't go back and forth when I pulled them, but I think I will do it this way for you guys. So this card is Reflective Truth. So I think that pairs well. We've got, in both cases, we've got these sort of beautiful, magical women. This card also underneath says number 31, and under Reflective Truth it says identity, self-love, and acceptance. So, and if you add 3 and 1, that's 4. So it's like stability, foundations. It's like we're actually getting foundational and more stable in this identity and self-love around our divine feminine selves. And this is for everyone. This is not like just for women. This is for women and men who are, conscious and aware and bringing this in. But particularly, if you have more feminine energy, you might be more aware and feeling this more. So, yes, the one of them has a more futuristic feeling and one is more rooted in times past, but really we know that time isn't really real and it's all an illusion. And they're all, I think, speaking to that same sort of goddess and her reawakening. And in this photo, we've got these beautiful light dots, which I'll talk about a little bit in different aspects. But you can see that there are all these light dots are around her crown chakra, and that's very significant. And they're also coming out around the heart chakra as well. So, and then of course she's got this green emerald on her third eye, which is also very significant. And so how I interpret all of this is that all of this clearing is happening so that all these DNA light, pure potential light codes represented by these dots can come in through the crown chakra so that we can have this remembering and rebirth process. And this green emerald over the third eye, the emerald is the emerald gateway to the higher dimensions. So just becoming aware of all this, remembering all this, this is kind of what's coming online right now. Okay, so the next card is Spring Equinox and Rebirth. So for this, we've got another card that is speaking to these upper chakras. I feel like this one more specifically is speaking to the clearing of the throat chakra. It's like these eggs in the throat was just screaming at me when I first looked at this card as the most important thing to be understanding in this card at this moment in time. And that it's like these seeds, these eggs that have been nesting, basically are ready to kind of come out and speak their truth and become part of physical expression through our voice. And again, I think that relates back to these harmonic tones and the divine feminine being kind of integrated on many levels through the harmonic tones. It's not just physical, it's one of, really it's one of the five senses, and I think that's a really the most meaningful activation that's really happening right now, is how this is coming through these harmonic tones. And it's pretty brilliant when you think about it, because it's one of the easiest things to modify from a higher dimensional perspective down into the physical, compared to other things that have much more density to them. I think that scent also is actually really significant, becoming really significant. And so as we move forward through this process, I'm getting these really strong senses that essential oils are going to become more and more important in conjunction with the harmonic vibrations to keep bringing this further down and down into the physical. So in addition, for this spring equinox card, I mean, the really obvious thing is that we have coming up this, well, we're actually already in it. We're in this very long, what my astrology teacher likes to call a wormhole passage, which is a science fiction term that applied to a passage from one new moon to another new moon that's carrying within it a series of eclipses. And so we've got the first eclipse coming up, which is a total lunar eclipse happening on January 31st. And then that's in Capricorn. And then we've got a new moon solar eclipse happening in Aquarius on February 15th. And then following that, the spring equinox is coming March 21st, and that is kind of basically going to birth through the end of this worm, like what everything that's basically been transmuted in that wormhole process is going to be birthed through at that time. Oh, I forgot to mention that there's like a Virgo full moon in there as well before this happens, so which is also significant. So I think that it's important that this came up in the reading, because I think that all the cards essentially are pertaining to this period, this process leading up to the spring equinox. So it's really significant. I always think my readings are probably the most significant to understand within the first 2 weeks of after I prepare them. But really my readings are meant to, I think they carry weight through that entire passage process. So they're kind of seasonal in that respect. It just takes a while often to fully integrate the understanding, because it is so foundational. So the card that comes with this is Heart Portal. And I feel like this, like you could say in the most literal sense, the rebirth is happening through the heart portal, which is also in itself a gateway. Just like there's two, I think, significant gateways. There's the heart portal gateway into the rebirth, and then there's the third eye portal as well, which is into like the remembering of ancient origins, which we'll talk about more in a little bit. So this card's number is 20, and then we've got receptivity, generosity, and then in the negative, mistrusting. So of course 20 is 2, which is a number of partnership and togetherness and union within self. So I feel like, I think that, and I think it's really worth mentioning that right at the spring equinox, literally right afterwards, or on it, there is Mercury and Venus come together. So to the exact degree. So, which is the divine masculine and divine feminine coming together at that time in complete balance at that point after we finish going through this process. So, and coming together in balance through the heart portal. And, anyone who's been through this process truly, knows how much the heart connection has been probably the most fundamental aspect of the connection between you and the divine masculine counterpart. And it's really been what's carried, I think, the whole process forward above and beyond any sort of conditioning and rational logic that you may have had before going through this process. And that is a testament to the power of the heart, the magnetism of the heart, the strength of the heart, and the manifestation powers of the heart, which is, it's really the true gateway, the true manifester of this, birthing this new reality. Okay, so next we've got ceremony. And I think I know for myself, and I'm going to say probably for a lot of you that are watching this as well, there is going to be a significant ceremony in your life coming up that is going to be a big part of bringing you into that next phase where you really are coming online with your ancient, I'm going to say like your ancient gifts, talents, knowing, memories, skills that have been acquired in past lives. It's the sort of the gateway ceremony to all of that. And so with that card, I've got oneness, which is 30, balance, patience, and divine masculine. And so I think, so 30 becomes 3, which is creating something new, creativity. And it's also the number of the Trinity, and I think the third energy. And of course, in order for that to happen, the divine masculine, oneness with the divine masculine has to happen. And we're still, for a lot of us, we're still working on that. So I really feel the divine masculine energy on this card. I'm just gonna hold it still for you for a minute so you can kind of get a sense of the vibe. Because there's there's something almost stoic about it, stillness, a deep, but it's also deeply, deeply sacred. And even though it's outside, it's this. It's still this cave within the outdoors, and it's really needing to connect through spirit with that divine masculine. And up here, I think it's really important, as you'll see in the cards later on, we've got Buddha kind of up in the sky, and then he's in this etheric form up here, and then he comes and he sits and he perches on the hilltop, and you'll see in another card he shows up again differently. And so it's really leading to the fact that I really feel like the divine masculine is going to start to descend a lot more actually once we kind of have this rebirth and once we have this unification process. And I've seen other readers talk about how a lot of the time divine masculine is going to go through more of this process of coming into their spirituality more in relationship and kind of after a union balancing has taken place. And this card does kind of suggest that is the case, and that I think that for some of us also that will require going to some sacred sites, which is gonna with that masculine partner, which is going to help to remember their divine connection and connect with the memory that's been stored in the crystal in the earth at those places. and with a native song. So I mean, there's just, I could probably go on for a while about this card, but I think that is sort of enough for now. Okay, so next we've got Iceberg, Submerged. And this card was the card that mystified me the most, but it makes a lot more sense when you see it with the pairing of the Magical Dimensions card. And it's speaking a lot to the fact that there is a lot that we're not seeing. There's a lot hidden under the surface. There's a lot in the earth, in the ice, in the frozen ice, in the crystals. There's a lot of memory hidden and held there. Maybe hidden is not the right word, but stored there. And you know, like, our thoughts can transform water. We know that like thoughts have an impact on our water. And but I think also when it's ice, it's like memories can be frozen in the ice, and a lot of that is frozen deep under in the ocean where we don't see it. And so, and also, like, you know, it's like frozen, like water represents emotion, and it's like frozen emotion. There's all this deep frozen emotion underneath the surface that's been buried, kind of forgotten, thrown away, that was thrown. I spoke about this in my last video, how the divine feminine was like tossed into the ocean. And then she froze up, and now, you know, there's going to be, once some of these invocations have occurred, once you really call upon bringing this back in, that's going to start to come up. And so that's paired with Third Eye Portal, which is number 39, and it says vision, clairvoyance, and clarity. And so 39 is so 12, so I think we're back to 3 again. Yeah, so it's also another number of still on that process of manifestation and third energy. And you know, that really is spoken to. If you look at the image behind, we've got this cross, that's the starseed cross of energy. And from that starseed, I think the starseed, you know, in this spiral is really speaking to connecting. It's both. It's within, it's what's buried and submerged in like the quote unquote underworld, or the emotions that have been forgotten, the subconscious, but it's also equally stuff that's coming from other dimensions, from black holes, from galactic portals, from other parts of ourselves that exist in other galaxies and dimensions. So it's just becoming more of ourselves. It's bringing so much more of who we are and who we have been back into our memory, into this current experience that we're having right here, right now, very concretely on Earth in the third dimension. And so with the third eye portal there, I would say that that's going to be one of the most significant chakras in bringing this through. And the last cards, as we'll look at it, really kind of confirms that to me. And so the third eye is really significant as well in bringing this energy in addition to the heart chakra. And I know that when I've been in the past, when I was still like really early days and trying to figure out what was going on with this awakening process and this connection, my third eye was off the hook, like really, really, really massive expansion of knowing, insight, wisdom through that portal, and it felt like it was on fire. So I feel like that through the reunification process and the balancing process of divine feminine and divine masculine, that will come back more again and intensify and help to bring this process forward. Next we've got love and compassion, and this card is really what else to say, but that it's just stunning. I mean, it just warms my heart to look at this card. And yeah, I got some really beautiful messages from my guides from this about that it's not so much about holding somebody else's hand in the physical in a traditional relationship, in these connections. It's not about just being, in a intertwined with one other person. It's about holding each other's hearts with compassion, and then literally bringing that energy of holding somebody else's heart and being that empathic person with everybody. And I mean, if you really think about it, if we could see that no matter what, no matter how like awful or evil somebody else may be or may seem to be, anything that you see in your reality on some level is a reflection of some distant part of yourself that needs love. And so, because if you love yourself, if you truly love yourself, then you have to love that reflection. And so developing this more fifth dimensional mindset, consciousness, understanding, and then taking it out into the world in terms of our relationships with other people, and being more aware of interacting with them in a more sacred manner, as if we're holding their heart, is going to become much more of a way of being. And as light workers and people on this union path, whether you be soulmates, twin flames, whatever you are, solo kind of warrior of light, it's going to become like a bit of a way of life, and you'll be a bit of a beacon of truth in that sense in the world, no matter what's going on for the next couple of years, through this gateway, this emerald kind of gateway, which is happening again at the heart, but also in the third eye, or higher knowing. And that is paired with contemplation, which is number 7. So it's a number of spirituality, and more a number of kind of doing your individual spiritual work in a way. So it doesn't necessarily, again, that's why it brings me back to what the statement I said, that it's not really so much about just holding hands with another person, but it's about becoming more spiritual in your approach, and bringing that light and love through. And as we do that, our hearts become a gateway. Our hearts literally become the emerald gateway. We become the emerald gateway for the higher dimensions. And you can see here with this, it says, I see all these kind of star seeds of light, these light dots kind of coming and descending down from, I'm thinking, the Temple of Solomon, the etheric Temple of Solomon, which is probably the most solid foundations we have on building a better 3-dimensional earth right now, by bringing this back in to the way that we actually, because at the end of the day, we have to completely change the way that we're building our cities and towns and the places we live. I mean, it's got to trickle down all the way. And so bringing all of this memory encodements down, these ancient encodements, and it could be an even older temple than that, but the Temple of Solomon is just like maybe one example of that template. Bringing all these DNA light codes down into the physical realm. And you can see that we've got now Buddha has descended down into the trees, he's come off of his mountain, off of his perch, and his kind of solo journey, this divine masculine, because he's been on a solo journey for so long, and bringing that down really into the ground and to where the feminine has been more residing, and working this through more physically, and with others in a more shared kind of physical journey. So it's really beautiful, and you can see here, if you look a little bit closer, the same sort of starseed template is coming through the third eye there. So it's this awakening, and it's just like sharing these truths and bringing through these truths through our third eye and through our extrasensory knowing. So there's a couple more cards to ground, and they kind of, I don't know, they make me really happy because I love trees. And so we've got European beach, and I actually saw a tree in I saw a tree in Chalice Well. Actually, it wasn't at Chalice Well. It was when I did a trip to Chalice Well in England, and that was this summer in August during the total solar eclipse period. And we went to Silbury Hill, and at Silbury Hill we walked around, and I saw a beautiful European beech tree with all these big old gnarly roots. And that tree came back to me recently to really kind of think about and notice the memories of the roots. And I realized that those roots are so foundational